You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Are you ready to learn the 3 secrets to launching a successful podcast? Hi, I'm Bill, a recent client of the Podcast Mogul. If you've been thinking about starting a podcast but aren't sure where to begin, he's got you covered. He is hosting a free webinar where he will share the 3 secrets that can help you launch, grow, and monetize your podcast without any fancy equipment or technical headaches. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot now and let him help get your podcast off the ground.
No, not only did they not have a plan, they didn't know where the hell they were going, and they didn't know if they were ever going to get there. In fact, they didn't know where they had to go to get to what they had to go to get.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Season 3 of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm, of course, Phil Better, and this season is presented to you by Unicorn Incubator. Unicorn is the largest rural incubator accelerator of its kind in the world, located in southwestern France. Its mission is to give entrepreneurs and their families their lives back while helping them build game-changing technology startups. Startups in the company are provided with a complete ecosystem for success, with direct access to proven funding sources, top-notch legal and accounting representation, access to the world's most generous business incentives, and most importantly, a dedicated sales and marketing accelerator that will put a startup's product or service on the fast track to success. Welcome to the first episode of Season 3, ladies and gentlemen. I am, of course, your host with the most, Phil Better, and I am so happy that we found a sponsor. It is, of course, Dom Einhorn, Season 2's final guest. He was generous enough to provide us with sponsorship as well as a contest that you will hear more about later. This episode is an interview with Richard Walsh, a investment advisor with Raymond James. A little caveat, a little disclaimer, if we will. The opinions expressed in this episode are those solely of Richard Walsh and do not represent those of Raymond James. Now, Richard is a veteran of over 30 years in the investment industry. He has a Bachelor of Science from Concordia. He's licensed to provide security investment advice as well as licensed to trade options. He also has his license of insurance of persons and his license to sell insurance that allows him to maximize tax and estate management issues for his clients. This episode does have a little audio issues due to the connection that Richard and I did have during our interview, but it is a great episode. We learn about how Richard went from being a orphan to where he is now and how he has grown his business and found his true light, his North Star, if you will. And I am so excited to share this interview with you. So let's get into it. All right. So Richard, I'm just going to ask you to give us about 30 seconds. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll jump into your story of how you got to where you are and how you help your clients.
A little bit about myself. Well, I don't know. I'm a father and a husband. I love helping people. I do martial arts, as you can probably see from behind me on the wall. I have a mukjong there. I do what's called Wing Chun Kung Fu. I represented Canada in the 2018 Worlds competition, 3 golds and 1 silver. I have to say that just because.
Oh, hey. Shine your chest. That's an amazing accomplishment.
It's one of my biggest passions. My other biggest passion, as I always say to my people, you have your God, you have your health, you have your family, and then you have your wealth. And for me, I would say that my business, but I would say that, my Kung Fu is right up there. It's a very personal passion, I think, for me.
That's great. It's always good when you're an entrepreneur to have those other passions, not just focus on your business. Because if you don't focus on your business 100%, you won't succeed, I find. And martial arts is a great training to get your mind into the proper zone.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, sorry. I was going to cut you off. Go ahead, sir.
No, I was just going to say, then that is often a problem that a lot of entrepreneurs have, is the balance of time. It's so focused on the business that the family life pays for. And even myself, over my years, my family has paid for it, because I'm pretty driven.
Mm-hmm.
And God forbid my daughter's just like me. Oh, I'm not allowed to talk about it. I've been given my instructions not to mention anything about my wife or my daughter. Good luck with that. I'm very proud of it.
Don't worry. If we can't, if I have to, I'll edit it out for safety. That's the joy of podcasting. So when did you get started in your drive to help people in your in investing? Well, not strictly investing. You do a holistic approach to their finances, correct?
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I grew up in an orphanage or a baby home till the age of 7, and then little Ricky goes out to school, isn't coming home at the end of the day because little, Dennis the Menace is out playing in the neighborhood. So they shipped me up to Toronto, where I ended up being with my maternal father's eldest brother, Uncle Bill. He had 4 kids. He thought he'd seen everything until I came upon the scene. And I remember walking into the house, and the first time looking in the basement, and all I saw were wall-to-wall toys. I mean, my God, it was like a treasure chest. Long story short, I was so wild. I wasn't a bad kid. It's just that I was very curious. And I'm saying this for a reason in a minute. And, so one day I found, back in those days, you had these metal rods about a foot or something long, would be attached to the car, would rub against the curb. And I remember going by a puddle, I see these things shining. So I picked up one, and I had a friend with me at the time pick one. We had a sword fight, and I lost. I got poked in my right eye, nearly lost my eye. Well, that was it. They couldn't keep me anymore. That's when I ended up coming back to Montreal to live with my other aunt, Ruth, who I call my mom. I was there from 7 on. And the first words out of her mouth coming in the door, it was a Nutrimall, Bernard Street. She said, "Ricky, if you ever steal, if you're ever dishonest, if you ever lie, you're out." And I never forgot that. And so the way I was sort of brought up, my mother, I call her my mom, she was born in 1910. So I was brought up with very old values. When all the kids were out smoking weed or whatever, I was wearing a tie to high school. And seeing I could wear a tie every day because I have my 2 cousins, or I call them my brothers, are 20 years older than me, right? So I was very retro as far as that goes. But I didn't realize till many years later what great lessons that she had taught me, particularly about helping people. Anyway, zoom forward. I'm in university. I've been hired by Johnson & Johnson for a new orthopedic implant device that they developed. I graduated medicinal chemistry pharmacology with a major in biology. So for me, it was a natural shoe-in. And at the time, I had a girlfriend whose father owned a boutique brokerage firm. He gave me the book, the securities book. And I remember looking at that book, and I couldn't put it down. It was just unbelievable. It's probably one of the fewest books I've ever seen in my life where I just was drawn to it like a super electronic magnet. Mm-hmm. And I actually turned down the job, Johnson & Johnson, spent an extra year, which my dad was delighted in university, to take economics and commerce and marketing. And graduated from there. Well, the understanding was that once I passed my security course, then I would go somewhere else, just in case we broke up, which we ended up doing. Mm-hmm. So I ended up getting hired by a company called Wood Gundy. This is before they merged with the banks. Yeah. So I was at Wood Gundy, and then I left Wood Gundy. A lot of and again, not Wood Gundy or any institution in particular, but they're very sales, raw. And mm-hmm. something inside of me was missing. And it took me quite a few years. I went from Wood Gundy to a company called Dean Witter, which merged with Midland. And then I went back with my best friend over to TD. We started a franchise called TD Evergreen here in Quebec. Back at the time, the banks were buying out the brokerage firm because the government opened up the pillars so they could buy insurance, get involved in insurance, and get in with the the investment community. But TD was always different. So what they did was they said, okay, we're going to set up a franchise where advisors will come in on every $1, we get to keep 70 cents. And then we pay them 30 cents to run the back office, hold the securities, do all the compliance.
Do all the real work.
Yeah, and I did that from 1993 to 2005. So what happened over that period was I was basically running a business under the bank, but I was an employee of the bank, and I'm a bit of a lone wolf. Mm-hmm. And I've been told by my Sifu. I'm very stubborn. I can't argue with him. Sifu's my master in Wing Chun. And I don't listen to my wife when she says that. And so I'm at the place, but I'm trying to do things and they won't let me do it. And then all of a sudden, I had an opportunity. I met somebody and he talked about this course called Dan Sullivan, the Strategic Coach. Now, you really should get a chance, or any entrepreneurs, I really recommend they get a chance to go check out the website. Because what Dan Sullivan is an out-of-the-box thinker. I'd already become an entrepreneur. See, most advisors at investment firms are basically salesmen. They sell the products of the firm, do mutual funds, whatever. Whereas I had been running a business. So for me to go on a commission again, I wasn't interested, type of thing. And so I started this course. I was in there for 8 years, probably spent $250,000 over 8 years, 4 times a year, either in Toronto or Chicago, 3 days, 2 or 3 days, sitting in a room with a group of highly entrepreneurial overachievers who are sincerely interested and happy for your success. And that's a very rare thing.
Yeah.
And so I completed all that. And then comes 2008. I was very conservative with the market, so I ended up pulling everybody out of the markets. But at the same time, I was trying to then put this branded process, which is what you see on the internet now, into play. And they wouldn't let me do it. And for me, it was a value proposition idea. And I remember one day coming on the train back from Toronto from one of my sessions, and it was like people on the train looked up over at me, because I said, "Oh my God," because we'd go there, we'd do these thinking things and we'd work them out. Well, I'm such a dunce. By the time I'm on the train, I figured it out that I actually love doing what I do because I love helping people. Now, that was one shoe that dropped. About 5 years later, the other shoe dropped, because it's easy to say, I love to help people. Right? Mm-hmm. But why? I mean, I made good money. I make good money. I rebuilt the business 2 or 3 times now, right? But now I'm rebuilding a bunker business because this is who I am, and my clients appreciate it, and I appreciate my clients, right? But why do I love helping people? And that's when the other shoe dropped. Again, such a genius that I am. And I realized, because my mom had always said to me throughout my life, if you give to get back, you never get. But if you give to get because of the heart and to help people, you get back tenfold. And this has been going in my ears, all the years. From the age of 12 or 14 till 19, she would sneak into my room at night and whisper when I was sleeping, "You're a good person, Mickey. You're an amazing person. You can do anything you want to do. You're a kind person." And about 4 times over that 5 or 6 year period, I actually woke up with this face about 4 inches from my face, and I was terrified, hollering, "Ma!" And I would holler out. The whole neighborhood, I'm sure, heard, right? So I think eventually she got her message across to me. So now we go back forward into where I realized the second shoe is that I love helping people because I'm a product of what that woman did for me. Who at 68 years old takes a 7-year-old in? 58, takes a 7-year-old kid in, into the house.
And someone with a huge heart. A huge heart can only do that.
An amazing heart, absolutely. And so who you are, I think it definitely depends on obviously genes, whatever. But I think a lot of it also is a social environment, because I'm a living product. I didn't grow up in a family. I did grow up in a family, right? I was in the orphanage system and then had a family. It doesn't take long to figure which way you want to go, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what led me to the point where I left a major business that I won't say the name. I already probably said it, TD, to go to a company called Wellington West. And of course, 3 years later, we got sold again back to National Bank. So I'm back in the banking system. Right? But by the time I moved out within a year, everything came out on my paper. It had all been kept in, and I was not able to put it out, all the stuff and all my frustrations. And that's when I created the NETWORTH NAVIGATOR process for my clients, and to really provide real value, and most importantly, and it's taken years to whittle it down to simple words, to give them peace of mind. So it's a very holistic approach.
I love that, because I'm someone that was brought up by my parents. As for those that don't know, Richard is a good friend of my father's, and they've worked together both, I believe, at Wood Gun that you guys first met, correct? TD, that's right. My dad's worked for a lot of banks. But he brought me up the same way. you're a good person, provide value to people. And for me, I'm always about providing more value because life will give when you give.
That's right. If you give from the heart and you provide and try to make a difference in someone else's life, how are they going to not or care about you or like you, not love you? I don't want my clients to love me, but you know what I mean?
As long as they appreciate what you're doing for them, that's what's important.
The money comes secondary.
Yeah.
You know, type of scenario.
I fully agree with you. I'm seeing a large shift, I think, especially on the online, because a lot of kids my age are coming into, you know, they're entrepreneur, they're becoming business owners, and they don't like that hard sell or getting seller's remorse or buyer's remorse from this. So they're trying to give more value to their clients or their customers.
Online, right?
Yeah.
That's what I do online because they can't find it anywhere else, right?
Mm-hmm. No one, it's great. I love how as bringing your holistic approach to help your clients grow their net worth and grow and security for them. It's an amazing thing. How did you really start coming up with your holistic approach for your clients? Did you like it just snap into place one day, or did you
God, it took me years of setting it up, renaming it, refining it, revamping it, tearing it down. Notice I don't have much hair left anymore. Just refining it because it's basically a product of who I am, right? Mm-hmm. And I tend, as you notice right now, to be very passionate and wordy. And so I had to keep cutting the versions down to make them smaller and smaller, because otherwise clients would walk in and I'd put the book, boom, in front of them. Like, you know, what the heck am I going to do with this type of thing? You know, I didn't want to scare them off. But yeah, I spent I would say from 2006, and I left to 2008. Well, actually 2005. So I'd say 3-4 years to really get it to a point. And then, you know, when I moved to Wellington, I really started to refine it and did a big push there. And now when I came back to working for myself at Raymond James, because I'm independent financial, I really shut it down and revamped it to be relative and pertinent to the individual. I've had clients that come in, they sit in front of me and they take their portfolio out of their little briefcase or purse and put it on the table, they slide it across the table at me and go, here's what I got, what can I do? And I look at them and I put my hands on the paper and I slide it back across the paper and say, I have no clue. Because we have to know where it is you want to go. We have to know who you are. We have to know what makes you sleep or not sleep at night and make sure we never breach that trust or put something in the portfolio. We have to do a structured plan. So my approach, the Navigator approach, it's really I don't want to really bore you with all this, but
no,
basically it was been built important. Because over 30 years of me opening clients, there was always a certain undercurrent theme of people coming to me, and I had quite a lot of assets when I was at TD, like a lot of assets, right? Mm-hmm. You could just see it. And one of the major themes was that nobody had a plan. And I used to say to people, I want you to look at me as a financial surgeon. Would you ever let me cut you open unless we did a physical and we did x-rays and did blood tests or whatever? I said, or go to the dentist and let him do root canal without doing his due diligence. But very often this is what people do with their investments. Or they push it over to a professional and I'm not going to knock people, but very often they do a very superficial deep dive or shallow dive into what the individual needs and requirements are. They don't spend the time with the person to get to know them, and then also get the person to ask the pertinent questions to help them to know where it is they want to go and where they don't want to go. And so we call that first stage or the first workshop. So that's the assessment phase. Once we get that, then we say, well, now we're into the next workshop, which is the design phase. So like everybody has an individual fingerprint. Mm-hmm. Well, everybody has an individual, unique financial plan, but it's not just about financial plan, it's about life plan. And this is what's very interesting, because very often I have people coming out of my office and they go, my God, I think I just saw my therapist, because we talk about 3 years from today, looking back, what has to happen with your life for you to feel happy with your progress, not your financial progress, your progress. And I've had business owners who come in and want to spend more time with the wife. They feel guilty because they're not spending time with the children. Fine, so then let's set it up. So that's why I call it a holistic approach. Yeah, I do insurance and purchase license. I'm options license. I do, the investment planning. I have financial planners that work, with me. But that's just the end of the tunnel setting it up. That's the design, which is stage 3. It's the first 2 stages, understanding what it is you want, where you want to go. That takes time. And then designing it. And then once you go from assessment to design, then you go to implementation, which is now when you start to set things up. And the other big thing that I got over the years was people that came in had no clue where they're making money. No, not only did they not have a plan, they didn't know where the hell they were going, and they didn't know if they were ever going to get there. In fact, they didn't know where they had to go to get to what they had to go to get. You see what I mean? And so they didn't, and when they got the statements, I don't know if you notice this, but financial statements that are issued in our industry, you know, accountants can be challenged to understand and read them. So poor little person, Mr. Smith, reads the statement and goes, okay. He's embarrassed, doesn't want to ask questions, right? You know, type of scenario. So the tracking has become very integral in not accountability. Look, it's the adage that I use with everybody. In order for you to go somewhere, how many times at New Year's did you make a New Year's resolution? Oh, I'm not going to drink anymore. Oh, I'm not going to, eat anymore. And that lasts, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, if that. Why? Because it's like walking towards the horizon. This is classic Dan Sullivan stuff. I wish I could take credit for it, but you walk towards the horizon, what happens? The horizon moves further away. You can't get there. But what you can do is point the direction in the horizon you want to walk to and take measurable baby steps to that target. And those measurable baby steps, I hate to say this, better than sex. It is.
It's true. It is true. It is true.
For the first time in your life, you feel like you're making progress because you can see it. And you can see because it's broken down into baby steps.
Yeah,
and that's what we show in the tracking sessions where we recap. Okay, this is what we did, and they love it.
Yeah,
I'll shut up now.
No, it's fine. No. The point of this podcast is to promote yourself and your system. And I love it because even for myself, when I first started podcasting, I'm like, I want to make money podcasting. That was my right. And I had no goal, no plan. I just said, that's the end destination. And I had no idea. And it ended up burning me out. Like a lot of my listeners have heard this. I burnt out my first podcast because of COVID. That was just a nightmare. And then when I started this one, I'm like, my plan is to help people learn how to be an entrepreneur by asking the questions to people who are already an entrepreneur. Because I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but there's no book on how to be an entrepreneur. No one's written it down because being an entrepreneur is a unique journey that you take as a person, just like your life. So the fact that you're helping entrepreneurs, you're helping business owners, you're helping individuals plan for their success, whether it is in planning for when they pass away so that their families with the insurance and that to protect them if ever they get injured, or
I've actually helped non-clients build their businesses.
That's
because
amazing.
The approach is the exact same thing. For example, for you, if I were to say to you 3 years from today, looking back, what does your podcast business have to look like for you to be happy?
It has to be bringing in $70K a year. That's all I need to be happy.
Okay, so if it's bringing $70K in a year, how do you generate revenue on the $70K? What are the steps you need to come back to today? Because you made that target of $70K down the road, right? So now we bring you back to today. We say, okay, what are the 5 biggest dangers stopping you from getting there? What are the 5 biggest strengths helping you get there? And what are the 5 biggest obstacles? And very often people have trouble thinking of 2 or 3. But I sit with them and we hammer them out. And when you have 5 big dangers, once we remove one, we get 5 big dangers, and then we get you to prioritize them. I don't do the talking, you're doing the talking. Then you say, well, this is most important, this is number 2, number 3, and you rank them. So when you get number 1 done, I say, oh, no, you don't get to do that. You have to take only 1 out of the 3 that's left over from the 5. So now it focuses you like a laser beam. So now you got one thing, baby step that you get to focus on. So you go work on that one. Once it gets done, we take number 2, bump it up to number 1 because number 1's done. Mm-hmm. Then number 4 comes up to number 3. And that's just on the dangers. Then you have your strength. And the reason we only do it 3 years ahead is because you can see it, you can smell it, you can taste it, you can imagine it, right?
Yeah.
That's the uniqueness of the NETWORTH NAVIGATOR process. So just in the minutiae of that kind of thing, it is very, very powerful. And it could be about your family life, it could be about married life, it could be about your business life. It's not restricted to, a lot of what I do is not even necessarily business, or like financial type of stuff. Go ahead.
No, that's great. It's true because you if you take the business approach and apply it to different parts of your life, it will help you benefit. And I've noticed this because I've started thinking more like everything's, if I want to go on a vacation, what is a vacation? Okay, it's $5,000.
Perfect example. Yeah.
It's going to cost me $5,000 to go on this vacation. How many hours or how many clients do I need to get to validate that? So it's
That's right.
I can pay for it that way. And just that, changing that thinking makes everything easier. It's more of a game, if you will, for me, because I'm like, okay, let's see if I can get to that level. The next level is this, because I grew up with video games.
Here's the funny part. It's not going to the next level because you just said it. If you were planning a vacation, you've done it before. You know the steps. You go to where you want to go. You go check how much it's going to cost. And you go when you want to, what time you want to go, and then you have to work it backwards. Where am I going to get the money to pay for it? How am I going to work after hours to get the money? Mm-hmm. How much tax am I going to have to pay so I have money in my pocket to go pay, right?
Yep.
Well, it's the same thing when you're running a business or you're involved with your family. It's just a matter of being able to get out of your comfort box. Get out. I always say that we all live in our boxes, you know, and, you know, I like to think that the really strategic thinkers, what differentiates them is the ability to think out of the box.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite quotes is by I think it's Will Smith. He says the most exciting place in your life is on the other side of fear.
Yeah,
and that's where you're going to grow the most as well, because you see that once you break down those small barriers of fear, you can do it. You see that you can do anything. It empowers you. It gives you the courage to try anything. Like, I'm pretty sure, as I was reading, you're a master scuba diver, if I'm not correct. Dive master, yeah. And yeah. I bet you the first time you scuba dive, you were probably a little terrified because, you know, you're in the ocean and it's massive.
Well, actually, I used to be a whitewater rafting guy when I was 23, 24 on the Lachine Rapids. And I got sucked under. I was sitting in a suicide seat in a raft. Back then, they didn't have motors on the Lachine Rapids. And I got sucked under for 5 minutes. And they say I didn't drown because I didn't die. I got used to it. I drowned.
It certainly felt like it to you.
Oh, yeah. They pumped me out, and then I got back on the boat the very next day in the same seat, went down with the same helmsman, and then I quit. Now imagine, I don't know how many years later, because it was, I don't know, 19, 20, I used to do triathlons, and I was pretty cut and in shape at the time. Mm-hmm. I'm pulling with my life, and all you heard it, the diving boots go, sucked off my feet from the undertow from the waves. So you can imagine when I strapped there's only a few things I never completed in my life, and one of them was diving. So now you shift forward to 2000. So I was 40 or something like that. And I decided I'm going to go back and I'm going to do diving. Well, the guys used to joke about me because whenever I do something, I'm always 1,000% in. There's good and there's bad. The bad is I had 2 or 3 computers. I had a pony bottle. I had the big scuba tank. My rig, the BCD, they used to call it the Christmas tree from all the little bells, super bells or whatever, because I was petrified going under this water after going through that experience. And then in doing my courses, every time I said, well, I drowned, they said, no, you didn't drown because you're still alive. So that's not drowning. And I was not, I wanted to argue with them, excuse my language, bitch slap them. Like, I did drown, right? Anyway, so why am I saying this? I forgot now.
Oh, we're talking about you becoming a master diver and the fear level, passing that fear barrier.
Yeah. So I remember you do your open water, you do your advanced water. So open water, you go to 60 feet. Advanced water, you go to 120. Now, then I did my equipment specialist. I did my underwater photography. I did underwater navigation. I did my equipment. I did my dry suit buoyancy, wet suit buoyancy. Then I did my rescue diver, which made me a professional diver. Then I became a master diver. And then finally I became a dive master. So that when I go diving, I don't even take those cards because I'm out on the boat and somebody dives, I get sued because I'm a professional diver. Now, inside this voyage, I think I'd done like 100 dives. I've done about 1,000 dives. Right? Again, this is over a 10-year period. I went nuts. Right?
Of course, you had. It was like your martial arts. This was your new hobby that you're throwing yourself 100% into.
That's it. And so I forget 2007 or 8. I think I worked only 165 days that year. The rest of the time I was diving all over the world. Right, Galapagos Islands twice, and I remember I was down at about 120 feet, and I looked at my regulator and said I had about 6 minutes of air left. Right? And then they wanted me to go through this tunnel, this like cave. If I can't see God and God can't see me, I don't think we should be doing it, right? All right, so I went through it, but I went from about 100 feet or so up to about 40 feet. All of a sudden, I had 22 minutes. I've taken 100 dives up to this point. Such a genius that I am. And it only hit me then. Oh, all I got to do is come up, and then I have more air. And that's because of the baggage of the Christmas tree and all that, the stuff that gone through that. So, I love diving. Not as much as my Wing Chun, but I love diving because it's a completely different world.
Oh yeah, no,
You dove?
I have yet to dove. The only time I scuba, I didn't scuba. I snorkeled in Disney World or Disneyland down in Florida. They have this little shark thing with nurse sharks and
Nice.
non-violent sharks. Like you don't bother them, they don't bother you. So I was terrified because stupid me watched Jaws the week before we went to Disney, and I was like, oh cool, we're gonna go snorkel. Oh, there's sharks.
Not good.
No, it wasn't the smartest move, but I've always been interested in going and seeing the ocean because for me it's exactly like space. For me, I want to go into space. That's my biggest frontier, where I want to go. But diving is just like it because it's a different world. It's a different environment. You're in an alien world because we're not the top of the food chain there.
That thing will kill you in a heartbeat. Well, 1 tablespoon can kill you, right?
Yeah.
What we call as divers, we call that inner space. So you have outer space, the oceans are the inner space, right?
Yeah.
And, it's amazing when you go down there, it's the silence. All you hear the bubbles.
I love watching documentaries about seeing the ocean, and one of my favorite animals is the great white. It's just so majestic and beautiful, but at the same, not to a diver, no. I like to watch. That's why it's my favorite animal. I'm not a diver. When I become a diver, then I'll be like, yeah, no, screw the great white. But no, it is, for me, it's like a majestic animal. It's
the ultimate hunter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's also terrifying because my brother wants to go into a metal cage with them.
You know what the most terrifying thing for a diver is, or a new diver? It's the confinement of being underwater with a limited supply of air, the closeness, being able to have to breathe through a regulator. That's usually which will end a diving career. People get under the water and they just can't cope with, being under the water and not being able to get up and breathe. They got to breathe through this apparatus through the mouth. Or the other thing is to clear their mask. Because part of to get from open water to advanced or deep water, you have to be able to clear your mask underwater. That type of scenario. And when you take it off, right, the water, sometimes if you don't hold the water in your nose, it can go up and you choke. And but it was fun. I enjoyed it. I don't do it. I haven't done it in a couple of years now. I mean, I had a pulmonary embolism back in 2015.
That could put a little damper on.
Yeah. I found out that I had severe sleep apnea. I stopped breathing an average of 85 times an hour. This has been going on for 25 years. I had become a vegan then, not now, but I watch my food now. I had stopped smoking and I had evidently walking pneumonia. So my body said, what the hell are you doing to me? And I had started my Wing Chun. And so I remember getting out of the hospital after a week in emergency. And they said, okay, you have to go home and lie down in bed for 6-7 weeks. I looked at him and said, you nuts? I said, that's what got me into this, because this walking pneumonia. I was in bed for almost 2 months throughout the year. And so I was back in class the following Tuesday. So yeah. So, I mean, if you don't have your health, man, and I see it in my business all the time, it's like, you really, really appreciate it. You're a young pup, so you don't need to worry about that yet.
No, it's better to check out my health. I've actually put my health in priority because I ballooned to about 300 pounds I was 300
Good for
pounds
you.
And I dropped down last time I checked, I dropped 60 pounds over 2020.
Well, that's fantastic, because I was, according to my insurance people, I don't agree with it, 300 pounds last spring. And so I'm down 45 pounds. I'm then, okay, I weigh. I'm down to 258. My goal is to get to 245. I haven't been there in 20 years. And then after that, I want to get down to about 220. Yeah. But I have about I had about 204 pounds of muscle in my body. I'm down to about 186 pounds of muscle, from all my I took 7 other styles of martial arts over my career. So. Yeah. So yeah. So I
So
mean,
you're telling me I should not get into a fight with you. That's what you're telling me.
only when you need to.
Yeah.
So what you do is you want me or my crew standing around you when you need to pull up the tire. Then it's a different story. Yeah. No, you don't do martial arts to fight. I don't. The good ones don't. The guys that last in this, they do.
Yeah, no, it's more of I find, because I've been reading a bit on Bruce Lee's martial arts.
Oh, Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Well, he studied under Ip Man.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Leave it on. Sorry. Ip Man, Moyet studied under Ip Man.
Oh.
Sonny Tan studied under Moyet. Walter de Kuzmik in Ottawa studied under Sonny Tan, and then my Sifu studied under Walter. So we come from Ip Man, which was who taught Bruce Lee.
Yeah, I know. His thing is like, it's more of a mental thing. You're building your mental strength. Yes, you're building your body into a tool or a weapon, but it's your mind that you're refocusing and you're training more when you're doing martial arts. And I find that when you look at some of the more successful entrepreneurs, the ones who have lasted for years and created many businesses, they do that. They're learning to focus their mind through different disciplines and not just the one discipline. Like you've done, you're a dive master, you're a master, or you're becoming a master.
I'm a sailor.
You're a sailor.
Sailed, right? But my number one passion I would have to say is to help people. I just wanted to throw that in there because my Kung Fu is my life. Mm-hmm. And it will be till the day I die. And I'm going to 124 and a half. That's my story. I'm sticking with it.
Hey man, you can do it.
Well, that's it, right? So that's what I do for my physical and mental well-being, right? My business side and my entrepreneurial side, I really think that it was this internal desire, not understanding where it came from, because I told you before, it came from realizing what my mom had done for me. And everything I am today, my real father was a con man. Actually, I think made a movie about him in the 60s called The Flim Flam Man. And my mother was an alcoholic. And I'm an aberration. I shouldn't be where I am today. I should have been dead on booze or a crook or whatever, type of thing. But because that person stepped into my life and gave to me, it's been just growing like roots inside of me. And that root growing inside of me is what then pushed me in my business to where, no, I can't do that. I can't accept that. I've got to do my own path. I made tons of money at TD, like, 6-7 figures. And and it was nearly killing me.
Yeah.
You don't see it because you're in the box. You don't see it, right? That's the difference. And if I always tell my clients this, money's just a tool. If I said to you, well, I'll give you the answer now. What's money, right? Money's just a tool. What really gives you happiness in life is your belief system and your moral code.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you're interested in getting in contact with Richard, you can find him on LinkedIn at rwalsh1. That's RWALSH1. Now, Richard is an amazing guy, and if you're interested in learning more about him, please do reach out and contact him. I had a great time talking with him, and I'll let another disclaimer, I guess. He is a family friend. My father put us in contact because I have been a member of a stock market for beginners group, and we've been getting a lot of questions regarding investments and proper techniques. So I interviewed Richard specifically for this episode. You should really check out the NETWORTH NAVIGATOR process, which is this holistic investment process, and it's comprised of 4 components, which we talked about in the episode. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you so much for being a subscriber, and I'm looking forward to even more great episodes. The next episode is with Nick, the music industry disruptor. Unfortunately, I cannot pronounce his last name. It is a very difficult last name, but that is coming out tomorrow. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to 3 episodes a week. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, you get to listen to amazing entrepreneurs in the digital space. So again, I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for Richard for spending time with me and providing me with so much valuable knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. And remember to always invest in yourself for success.
Thanks for tuning in. Now it's time to take the next step. When you're ready to dive deeper into how to launch, grow, and monetize your podcast, Phil's got something special for you. Join him for a free webinar where he'll reveal the 3 secrets that have helped countless entrepreneurs succeed in podcasting. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot, and let's turn your podcasting dreams into reality.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.